Attention all sentient species of the Galactic Confederation. This is an emergency broadcast. This is not a drill. Repeat. This is not a drill. The transmission cut through every communication device across 17,000 inhabited worlds. It interrupted mating rituals, business transactions, religious ceremonies, and one particularly high-stakes game of Centaurian poker, where diplomat Fraz was about to win with a hand he'd spent 3 malts saving up for. The humans have declared all sentient life forms, as the broadcast paused dramatically, valid targets. In the central chamber of the Universal Council headquarters, a gelatinous blob with 14 eye stalks was having what could only be described as a meltdown if melting down wasn't already its natural state of being. Order. Order, shouted High Councillor Glixnar, their voice amplifier cranked to maximum. 3 of their eye stalks were focused on different data screens, 2 were watching the exits, and the rest were frantically scanning the crowd of panicking representatives. We must maintain decorum in this time of crisis. Nobody was listening. The Valaxian delegate had inflated their threat sacks to twice their normal size. The Brix hive mind was broadcasting distress pheromones so potent that the plant-based species in attendance had begun to bloom in confusion, and Representative Quib of the methane-breathing Jovari had stress-farted so violently they'd propelled themselves into the ceiling light fixture. Glixnar's assistant, a bipedal insectoid named Crick, approached with a data pad clutched in 3 of his 6 appendages. "Sir, the emergency protocols have been activated. All civilian spacecraft are being recalled to their home systems. The defense grid is powering up, and the Department of Deathworlder Containment is requesting additional funding again." "What about evacuation procedures?" Glixnar's voice wobbled almost as much as their gelatinous form. "The evacuation committee is currently debating whether this qualifies as a Class 3 or Class 4 emergency, which would determine if we use the blue evacuation pods or the slightly more comfortable red ones." "We don't have time for that." Glixnar's eye stalks all pointed at Crick simultaneously, causing the insectoid to take a step back. "The humans have designated us all as valid targets. Do you know what that means?" Crick's mandibles clicked nervously. "That they're going to eat us." Worse. Glixnar shuddered dramatically, sending ripples through their transparent body. "They're going to befriend us. Possibly romantically." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. The Brix hive mind representatives fainted in perfect synchronization. "But sir," ventured Crick, "aren't diplomatic relations with the humans already established? They've had an embassy here for nearly 3 cycles. Yes, Glixnar waved a pseudopod dismissively. "But that was when they were merely observing us. This declaration changes everything. You know how Deathworlders are once they've designated something as a valid target. They don't stop until they've conquered it. They look at their history. They designated the moon as a target and then walked all over it. They designated atoms as targets and then split them apart." From the back of the chamber, a gravelly voice called out, "They designated their own planet as a valid target, and look what happened to it." This set off another wave of panic. A Fluvian diplomat began stress molting, covering 3 rows of seats with iridescent scales. Glixnar oozed onto the central platform, their body forming into what was meant to be an authoritative column, but looked more like a wobbling tower of anxious jelly. Silence. "We must approach this methodically. Where is the human behavioral analysis team?" A small delegation of nervous-looking aliens shuffled forward. Their leader, a feathered humanoid named Dr. Pex, was carrying a stack of actual paper, a concession to the humans' primitive technology preferences. "Dr. Pex," Glixnar's main eye stalk focused intensely, "explain to us what this valid target's designation means in human terms." "Well," Dr. Pex's feathers ruffled anxiously, "based on our observations of human communication patterns, when they designate something or someone as a valid target, it typically means they have, intentions." "What kind of intentions?" demanded Glixnar. "That's the problem, sir. Human intentions are complicated. They could want to fight us, befriend us, mate with us, or simply draw amusing pictures of us. Sometimes all 4 simultaneously." Dr. Peck shuddered. Their minds are as baffling as their ability to consume capsaicin for pleasure. Council member Zorth, a crystalline entity from the Andromeda galaxy, chimed in with a tinkling voice. Perhaps we should just ask them what they mean. The chamber fell silent as all eyes, stalks, sensory clusters, and other perceptive organs turned toward Zorth. Just ask them? Glixnar repeated slowly, as if Zorth had suggested they all strip naked and dance in vacuum. Well, yes. Zorth's crystalline form sparkled with logical clarity. They do have an ambassador here, don't they? Glixnar's eye stalks all swiveled to look at each other in confusion, then back at the assembly. That's actually a reasonable suggestion. Crick, summon the human delegation, but make sure they're searched for weapons, food items, and those awful dad joke cards their ambassador keeps trying to give me. As Crick scuttled off to arrange the meeting, Glixnar addressed the still panicking council. Representatives of the Galactic Confederation, we will face this human threat with dignity and protocol. I have already submitted Form 62B for unexpected Deathworlder declaration of intent and requisitioned the special reinforced chairs for the human delegation. Nobody appeared reassured. The Valaxian delegate had now inflated to the point where they were floating near the ceiling, bumping gently against the still trapped Representative Quib. And someone please activate the artificial gravity in Sector 7. Glixnar added. We can't negotiate effectively with delegates stuck to the ceiling. The Universal Council's first contact with humans had been peaceful, if bewildering, but nobody had expected this sudden declaration about valid targets. The halls buzzed with rumors. The humans were planning to colonize everyone. The humans wanted to challenge every species to their barbaric sports. The humans had run out of their own strange foods and were looking for new planets to cover in this substance they called ranch dressing. As the council chamber descended further into chaos, Glixnar's communication device beeped with a message that made all 14 of their eye stalks widen in terror. A human delegation arriving in 5 minutes. The countdown to potential interstellar incident had begun. The council chamber doors slid open with a dramatic hiss, and every alien representative instantly froze. Some literally the crystalline beings from Regal 7 had an unfortunate tendency to solidify when startled. Captain Ellie Martinez strode in with the casual confidence of someone who had no idea they were supposedly declaring war on the entire galaxy. She was flanked by Lieutenant Dylan Murphy, whose large frame and perpetual smile made several smaller species duck under their seats, and Dr. Talia Wong, the team's xenobiologist, who was busy scanning the room with barely concealed scientific excitement. Heya, folks. Captain Martinez called out cheerfully, waving. Got your message about an emergency meeting. What's the crisis this time? Another black hole migration? Space jellyfish mating season? The chamber remained deathly silent, except for the soft crystalline tinkling of the Rigel 7 delegation beginning to thaw. Glixnar oozed forward, their gelatinous form quivering with what might have been fear or possibly indigestion humans could never quite tell. Captain Martinez of Earth, they intoned with formal gravity, we have received your species declaration regarding valid targets. Martinez blinked. Our what now? Lieutenant Murphy leaned in, whispering, did we declare war on someone and forget to tell me? Because I had accidental galactic conflict on my human diplomacy bingo card. Dr. Wong elbowed him sharply. I assure you, Glixnar continued, all 14 eye stalks focused intensely on Martinez, that the Galactic Confederation takes this threat seriously. We are prepared to negotiate terms of... Martinez held up her hands. What declaration? What valid targets? We haven't declared anything except our undying love for that blue cheese dip at the embassy cafeteria. A ripple of confusion spread through the chamber. Representative Quib, finally rescued from the ceiling fixture, whispered loudly to a neighbor, is blue cheese a weapon system? Crick scuttled forward with a data pad and thrust it toward the humans. This transmission was broadcast across 17,000 worlds approximately 3 hours ago. The screen showed a human youngish, wearing what appeared to be a colorful ceremonial garment with the words "Love is love" emblazoned across it, speaking directly to camera. Hey everyone. Just wanted to announce that we're officially declaring all beings as valid targets for Pride Month celebrations. Spread the word. No matter what planet you're from, what you look like, or how many appendages you have, you are valid. Martinez's face went through a fascinating series of expressions: confusion, realization, horror, and finally, the desperate attempt not to laugh that humans often displayed during diplomatic incidents. "Oh, my stars," she managed to choke out. That's not a declaration of war." "Then what is this Pride Month weapon system?" demanded a tentacled representative from the back. "And why are we all targets of it?" Lieutenant Murphy snorted so hard he had to turn it into an unconvincing cough. Dr. Wong stepped forward, ever the professional. "Pride Month is a cultural celebration," she explained gently. "It's about acceptance and inclusion. When humans say someone is a valid target, in this context it means we recognize and affirm their right to exist as they are." "So, you're not planning to conquer us?" asked Crick, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Or eat us?" called out a small, meaty-looking alien who had been cowering behind a chair. "Or force us to listen to this country music we've heard warnings about?" added another. "Abides." Captain Martinez had finally regained her composure. No, and definitely not unless you specifically request it. This is just a big misunderstanding. The broadcast was meant to be inclusive, not threatening. Glixnar's body rippled with what might have been relief or embarrassment, but the emergency protocols have already been activated. The defense grid is powered up. The evacuation committee has already argued for 3 hours about the pod colors. "Well, power them down," Martinez suggested reasonably. "Look, why don't we sit down and I can explain exactly what Pride Month is, and why you're all valid." The word valid caused another ripple of unease through the chamber. Perhaps Dr. Wong interjected, "We should start by explaining the context of human affirmation traditions." "Let's back up a bit," Captain Martinez suggested, taking a seat at the negotiation table. The reinforced chair creaked ominously under her completely average human weight. "I need to understand exactly how this happened." Glixnar's eye stalks swiveled nervously. "Perhaps we should review the sequence of events." Crick, cue the incident footage. A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It showed Lieutenant Murphy himself, 3 days earlier, standing in the Human Embassy's Cultural Outreach Center. He was hanging colorful banners while chatting with a group of curious alien visitors. "Oh no," Murphy groaned, slumping in his chair. "I think I know where this is going." In the recording, Murphy was explaining enthusiastically, "And that's why Earth celebrates Pride Month. It's when we recognize everyone's right to be themselves, love who they love, and exist as they are. Back home, we'd have parades, festivals, and educational events. Since we can't do that here, we're bringing the spirit of pride to space." A small, tentacled visitor raised an appendage. "But who is included in this pride?" Murphy's recorded self smiled broadly. "Everyone. That's the beauty of it. Humans have learned that diversity makes us stronger. So we're officially declaring that all beings across the galaxy are valid targets for celebration during Pride Month." The recording showed the alien visitors exchanging alarmed glances before hurriedly leaving the room. "And that's when the panic started," Crick noted, stopping the playback. The chamber fell silent as everyone processed this information. Finally, Representative Zorth's crystalline form chimed softly. "So when you say valid targets, you mean beings worthy of celebration and respect," Dr. Wong clarified, "and not targets for conquest or conversion, or whatever else you thought." Captain Martinez pinched the bridge of her nose. "Murphy, I thought we had a discussion about using military terminology during cultural exchanges." "Valid targets isn't military terminology," Murphy protested. "It's just a phrase that means he stopped," realization dawning. Oh, I see how that could be misinterpreted." Glixnar's body rippled with what might have been laughter or indigestion. "You mean to tell us that this entire galactic crisis was caused by linguistic confusion?" "Welcome to 90% of human diplomatic incidents," Martinez sighed. "Language is tricky. especially when you're dealing with idioms and cultural references. When we say something is cool, we don't mean it's cold. When we say break a leg, we're not wishing harm. And when you say we're valid targets, you're not preparing to launch missiles at us, Crick clarified, mandibles clicking with relief. Exactly, Martinez nodded. Though I'm curious why you jumped straight to declaration of war, rather than asking us directly. The alien representatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Finally, Glixnar spoke up. Well, you see, Captain, you're DEATHWORLDERS. I really wish you'd stop calling us that, Dr. Wong muttered. But it's accurate, protested a feathered representative. You evolved on a planet with terrifying gravity, deadly microorganisms, extreme temperature variations, and large predators. Your own bodies are filled with acid. You breathe oxygen, a corrosive gas. You consume capsaicin for pleasure. Your method of reproducing involves. We get the point, Martinez interrupted. But that doesn't explain why you assumed we were declaring war. Glixnar's eye stalks drooped slightly. History suggests that when species from high gravity, high danger worlds expand into space, they tend to, well, conquer everything. Murphy suggested. Precisely. Glixnar brightened. It's not prejudice, it's statistics. Dr. Wong leaned forward. Maybe those statistics need updating. Humans aren't interested in conquering the galaxy. We're more interested in trading recipes, sharing stories, and yes, celebrating diversity, even interspecies diversity. So this Pride Month, Crick ventured, it's really about accepting differences. Exactly, Martinez smiled. It's about recognizing that diversity in appearance, biology, culture, love, identity makes the universe more interesting and stronger. The chamber had grown quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet, now thoughtful rather than fearful. So, Captain Martinez said, clapping her hands together with forced cheerfulness, now that we've established humans aren't declaring war on the galaxy, but perhaps we can deactivate those defense systems and call off the evacuation. Glixnar quivered uncertainly. I suppose that would be the reasonable course of action. Crick, please send the stand-down codes. Already done, sir, Crick replied. Though the evacuation committee is demanding a formal hearing about the Podcolor decision being rendered moot. Tell them they can submit Form 94C for grievances related to unnecessary emergency preparations. Glixnar sighed, several eye stalks drooping with exhaustion. Just as the tension in the room began to dissipate, the chamber doors slid open again. A tall, elegantly scaled reptilian being entered, wearing what appeared to be a modified version of a human business suit with special accommodations for his tail. Ambassador Zortul, exclaimed Martinez, visibly relieved. Perfect timing. Zortul surveyed the scene with intelligent yellow eyes. I leave the station for one diplomatic retreat, and I return to find the entire Confederation preparing for war with humanity. What exactly did you do this time, Captain? Nothing, Martinez protested. Just a small cultural misunderstanding about Pride Month. Ah, Zortul nodded knowingly. The celebration of human diversity and inclusion. Let me guess, someone used unfortunate phrasing that sounded threatening when translated. Lieutenant Murphy raised his hand sheepishly. Zortul was one of the few non-humans who had spent significant time on Earth, serving as his species ambassador. He'd developed both an understanding of human culture and a dry sense of humor about their diplomatic blunders. Perhaps, he suggested, addressing the council, this would be an excellent opportunity for some cultural exchange. Instead of panicking about humans, we could learn about this Pride Month tradition. That's actually a great idea, Dr. Wong brightened. We could hold an informational session, explain the history, the significance, maybe even have a small celebration. A celebration? Glixnar's eye stalks all pointed in different directions, a sign of stress in their species. With DEATHWORLDERS. We prefer humans, Martinez corrected gently. You know, Zortul mused, my time on Earth taught me something important about humans. Yes, they evolved on a dangerous planet. Yes, their bodies contain bizarre chemistry. But their greatest adaptation isn't physical, it's social. The council chamber grew quiet as Zortul continued. Humans survived their death world not by conquering it, but by cooperating with each other. Their greatest strength isn't their durability or their strange love of spicy food, it's their capacity for community, for acceptance, for celebrating differences rather than fearing them. A murmur ran through the assembly. Several representatives nodded thoughtfully. That's what this Pride Month is really about, Martinez added. It's a recognition that diversity makes us stronger, at different ways of being, of loving, of expressing oneself. They all have value. And you wish to extend this concept to other species, asked a previously silent representative, a floating collection of luminous gas contained in a specialized environmental suit. Why not? Murphy shrugged. Different species, different biologies, different ways of existing. The principle is the same. Everyone deserves recognition and respect. Dr. Wong stepped forward. We could organize an interstellar pride event. A chance for different species to learn about each other, to celebrate our differences rather than fear them. I think, Zortul said with a smile that displayed an impressive collection of teeth, that this misunderstanding might have accidentally created an opportunity for genuine understanding. So, we're not going to die, clarified Representative Quibb, who had finally stopped trembling. Not today, Martinez grinned. Today we're going to plan a party. Glixnar's body rippled with what might have been resignation or possibly anticipation. I suppose if we must engage in human celebrations, we should do so properly. Crick, please prepare Form 117D for interspecies cultural exchange events and requisition the appropriate refreshments. Including the blue cheese dip? Murphy asked hopefully. I'm afraid that's been classified as a potential biohazard after the incident with the methane-breathers last month, Crick replied apologetically. Part 5. The real threat emerges. As plans for the Interstellar Pride celebration began taking shape, Crick's communication device emitted an urgent series of beeps. The insectoid's antennae stiffened as he read the incoming message. Sir, he chittered nervously to Glixnar, we have a situation at the outer defense perimeter. Unidentified vessels have just dropped out of FTL. They're not responding to hails. More humans. Glixnar's eye stalk swiveled toward Martinez accusingly. Don't look at me, she replied, hands raised defensively. All our ships are accounted for. The chamber's main view screen flickered to life, showing a cluster of sleek, obsidian vessels moving with unsettling precision toward the station. Their design was unfamiliar, all sharp angles and reflective surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Those aren't ours, Murphy confirmed, his usual jovial expression replaced with professional concern. Captain, they match no known configuration in our database. Ambassador Zordzul stepped closer to the screen, his scaled brow furrowing. Nor in the Confederation records. This is unprecedented. The chamber erupted into panic once again. This time, however, it was an entirely justified response to an actual threat rather than a linguistic misunderstanding. Perhaps, Representative Zorth suggested, their crystalline form vibrating anxiously, they are simply new trading partners who don't understand proper communication protocols. As if in direct response, the lead vessel fired a focused energy beam at one of the station's automated defense satellites, vaporizing it instantly. That doesn't look like a trading request to me, Martinez muttered, already reaching for her communicator. Unless they're really aggressive bargain hunters. Glixnar's gelatinous form rippled with genuine fear. This is a nightmare. First we prepare for a human invasion that isn't happening, and now we face an actual invasion from unknown hostiles. The Confederation hasn't seen combat in 17 cycles. Our defense systems are mainly for show. Wait a minute, Dr. Wong said suddenly, studying the tactical display. The timing of this attack seems convenient, almost as if they were waiting for our defenses to be powered down. Zortul finished, eyes narrowing. Captain Martinez, I believe someone may have been exploiting your unintentional cultural incident as cover for a genuine attack. Martinez's eyes widened. The emergency broadcast about humans declaring everyone valid targets would have spread confusion throughout Confederation space. Perfect conditions for a surprise strike. Lieutenant Murphy was already analyzing the tactical display. Look at their approach vector, they're heading straight for the central data archives. That's where all the Confederation species information is stored, including biological data, Dr. Wong added grimly. Physiological strengths, weaknesses, environmental requirements. Everything an invading force would need to efficiently conquer the Confederation, Zortul concluded. Glixnar's eye stalks were practically tied in knots with panic. What do we do? The full Council fleet won't arrive for hours. Our diplomatic station has minimal defensive capabilities. All eyes, stalks, sensory clusters, and other perceptive organs turned toward the humans. Martinez exchanged glances with Murphy and Wong, a silent communication passing between them. We have the USS Tenacity in orbit, Martinez said finally. It's just one ship, but it's an Earth vessel designed by DEATHWORLDERS, for DEATHWORLDERS. A single ship against that fleet. Crick's mandibles clicked in distress. The mathematics of survival are not favorable. Murphy grinned, his earlier joviality returning with an edge. Good thing humans are terrible at accepting unfavorable odds. We have a saying on Earth, never tell me the odds. Besides, Dr. Wong added, we won't be fighting alone. We'll have you. Us? Squeaked Representative Quibb. What could we possibly contribute to a battle? Martinez's smile was suddenly reminiscent of a predator. And knowledge, creativity, and most importantly diversity. The very thing we were just discussing celebrating. I believe Zortul said slowly. That Captain Martinez is suggesting we use our different species' abilities in combination. A tactic the unknown hostiles won't be expecting. Exactly, Martinez nodded. Lieutenant Murphy, contact the Tenacity. Tell them to prepare for combat, but hold position until our signal. Dr. Wong, I need you to work with the Council representatives to quickly identify what unique abilities each species might contribute. Glixnar's form finally solidified into something resembling determination. Perhaps the human's Deathworlder instincts might be exactly what we need right now. The next 3 hours were a whirlwind of activity that would later be described in Confederation historical records as the most improbable defense strategy ever conceived. That it actually worked. Captain Martinez's plan was, in typical human fashion, both brilliant and completely insane. As the USS Tenacity engaged the mysterious vessels in a diversionary battle, a smaller team consisting of representatives from 12 different species infiltrated the station's maintenance tunnels. Remind me again why I'm crawling through access ducts with a human and an assortment of aliens that, until recently, I thought were about to be valid targets. Glixnar whispered, their gelatinous form squeezed into a distinctly non-gelatinous friendly shape. Because, Martinez replied, checking her handheld scanner, your species can flow through security barriers that would stop the rest of us. And because you volunteered. I did no such thing. Glixnar protested. You said, and I quote, oh, my 14 ancestors, we're all going to die unless someone does something, Murphy reminded them cheerfully. In diplomatic circles, that's what we call enthusiastic volunteering. Ahead of them, Zortul signaled for silence as they approached the central hub. Through a small opening, they could see 3 figures in sleek black armor placing some kind of device on the data core. Data miners, Zortul whispered. They're attempting to extract the biological information before destroying the station. Well, Martinez grinned. Let's show them what happens when you mess with a station full of diverse species celebrating their first interstellar pride. What followed was a battle that defied conventional tactics. Glixnar flowed through security barriers to disable the invaders' communication systems. Representative Quibb released a precisely controlled methane cloud that confused the invaders' sensors. The crystalline Zorth refracted energy weapons back at their sources, and the humans did what humans do best. They improvised wildly and hit things very hard. You know, Murphy panted as he wrestled with one of the invaders. On Earth, crashing someone's pride celebration is considered extremely rude. When the station's security feed later captured the moment a gelatinous blob, a methane breather, and a human worked together to disarm an alien invader, the footage would become the most watched video in Confederation history, usually accompanied by the musical track Unlikely Heroes' DEATHWORLDER remix. By the time the Confederation fleet finally arrived, the battle was over. The mysterious vessels had retreated, their ground forces captured, and the station secured. The combined crew of aliens and humans stood in the council chamber, battered but victorious. Initial interrogation of the captives reveals they're mercenaries, Zortool reported, hired by an unknown party to exploit any confusion in Confederation space to steal our biological data. So they were waiting for an opportunity, Martinez mused, and our Pride Month misunderstanding gave them the perfect cover. Speaking of which, Murphy interjected, I think we still have a celebration to plan. Nothing says we survived like a party. 1 week later, the Galactic Confederation held its first Interstellar Pride celebration. The station was decorated with colors representing every species' visual spectrum. Food that was toxic to at least 3 other species was clearly labeled but abundantly available. And at the center of it all, a banner in 27 languages proclaimed, all species valid, and no targeting involved. Captain Martinez stood with Glixnar, watching as representatives from across the galaxy mingled, shared stories, and occasionally accidentally poisoned each other despite the warning labels. You know, Glixnar said, their eye stalks swaying gently to the music, perhaps being a valid target isn't so bad after all. That's the spirit, Martinez grinned, though we really need to work on that phrasing. I've been meaning to ask, Glixnar ventured, what exactly does the F in humanity, F-yes, stand for? Martinez choked on her drink. That's a human linguistic tradition I'll explain another time. As the celebration continued, the Confederation News Network broadcast a special report. This is not an emergency. Repeat, this is not an emergency. The Deathworlders have decided we're all valid targets for friendship. And somewhere in the party, Lieutenant Murphy was already planning next year's celebration, blissfully unaware that his proposed theme of humanity's got your back would trigger another galaxy-wide panic when translated into certain languages, as humans are mounting everyone from behind. Some lessons, it seemed, would take longer to learn than others,